Welcome to the Through the Line podcast. And today's trade deadline day. So we're just going to cover a little bit of that and cover some quick topics of this past weekend. And that'll be all Thursday. I will be in the studio. So we're going to start off with the deadline. There's some interesting trades that happened. The last one really big to go off outside of Tre'Davious White. He got traded to, I think, the Ravens at like the last second, which was very interesting to see happen. If I can get it to pop up. Can't seem to find a New York Post. 49ers add Texans DT Khalil Davis for what? A 2026 7th round pick. Azeez Ojulari surprisingly does not get traded. I think the Giants wanted too much. But he's got 6 sacks. I think it's a shame that they didn't trade him. I think it's dumb because he's going to go back to a rotational role. You could have got like a 4th round pick for him and turn that into something big. But now the Rams trading Tre'Davious White to Ravens for what? A 7th round pick. The Rams will receive a 7th round pick in 2026, and they will also give up a 6th round pick in 2027. He hasn't played that great. He's also come back from major injuries in the past few years. I think like an ACL and then an Achilles, something like that. Took out a few years of his career where it was a shame to see because he was a Pro Bowler in I think 2020, and then he's played 25 games since. He's only 29. In 2021, he played 11 games, 22-6, 23-4, and this year he's played 4 so far. But he's a Pro Bowler, All-Pro. He's DPOY candidate before. I like the trade for the Ravens. They needed that addition severely with the issues they've had in the secondary. Them adding another receiver too already, but they needed a corner, and it helps them out a lot. Looking at their depth chart, they aren't the only team that made an addition at the corner spot. The Commanders did it as well. We'll talk about that once we get there. Yeah, they'll probably end up moving Brandon Stevens back. Nate Wiggins doesn't even start, so they'll move one of those guys. Because it'll probably be Brandon Stevens or Darius Washington because they just need they need help back there. They need help severely, and they've had a lot of defensive injuries happen too. Trayvon Mullen, Michael Pierce, and offensively Keaton Mitchell. And TJ Tampa, the corner, going down here. I think it was like a second rounder. Not sure. But moving forward, the what was one of the more surprising trades? The Steelers traded for Preston Smith, pass rusher, which he would sit behind T.J. Watt, Highsmith, Herbrig, so he'd be the 4th string pass rusher. But he's like, how old is Preston Smith? He's getting up there. Ty Schmidt on Pat McAfee was alluding to him retiring. He's only been in the league for about 10 years. What is he? He's 31. has, I mean, he's a solid pass rusher. Not great, but solid. Had 1 year where he had double-digit sacks, and that was 19. And that team they were talking about was kind of crazy because they had Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith at the same time. Both guys were coming in. I think they signed them the same offseason. And they played really well. That team was low-key loaded. You have Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, Jamal Williams, Alan Lazard, MVS, Jimmy Graham, Mercedes Lewis, Robert Tonyan, Dexter Williams. And then defensively, so Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith combined for 12 sacks and 13.5. They had Kevin King at the time. He's with Atlanta. He went from being one of the better corners in the league to being out, but that's sidetracked. Yeah, he hasn't been the same since. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, he followed up in 2020 with 4 sacks and 9. 2021, 8.5, 8, and now 2.5. I think it's a good depth piece. Seeing both of them get traded, I think they're brothers, get traded is interesting. But I think they gave up like a 7th round pick in this year's draft. It's not going to be much. Darius Slayton didn't get traded as well, and I thought was interesting, but I thought that was going to be Steelers' top target, in my opinion. But the Steelers went out, brought in Mike Williams, guy who needed another change of scenery after the Jets traded for Devontae Adams, and it just didn't really go well for Mike Williams. Him and Aaron Rodgers did not mesh, and it's hard to mesh with Aaron Rodgers, with the man he is. But it's interesting. I would have brought in Darius Slayton instead of Mike Williams just because Darius Slayton right now looks good. Looks like he's having arguably a career year. He's already had multiple 100-yard games this year. I mean, you need that as a number 2, and he's a perfect number 2 receiver. And then probably the most surprising trade of the day came early this morning. And Jonathan Mingo, let's look up his stats. He's a former second rounder out of Ole Miss. Got traded for a 4th round pick. And this brother has 539 yards receiving on his career, 0 touchdowns. And you gave up a 4th rounder for him. That was a bad deal. I also gave up a 7th rounder, too. Yeah, I'm reading where they're saying that the GM ripped him. I mean, maybe he develops into your number 2. I just don't understand it. I didn't think, I just didn't like it at all. That move's more of a long-term move, and Jerry Jones is like, we can win now. Which this team is in, we'll talk about it at the end of the podcast, is in a terrible spot right now. And then probably the biggest trade of the day was the Commanders land Marshawn Lattimore for a 3rd and I think a 5th, which I think was a great deal. Looking at the depth chart. Yeah, it's already in there. So it moved Michael Davis back. Manuel Forbes, I'm surprised, did not get traded. But this is now an even deeper cornerback group because it's Benjamin St. Justice, Marshawn Lattimore, Mike Sandstrom, the nickel, Noah Igbenogany, Michael Davis, and Emmanuel Forbes. Great group. A lot of these guys, former top 3 picks, or top 3 round picks. And you have Jeremy Reeves, a safety. I mean, a free safety I could think they could, upgrade at. But this team, Dante Fowler has like 6.5 sacks. Dorian Armstrong, Deron Payne. So what, they lost Jonathan Allen? Yeah, Jonathan Allen's still hurt. So when they get him back, too, Quinn Farrell, they could upgrade their middle linebackers. a massive strength. And then this line, I mean, this team looks good. I love the addition. Probably the best trade for anybody. All like the whole deadline, the whole trade thing, because you give up a third and a fifth, and a sixth. You get a fifth round back. This is a team that needed a corner, and you get pretty much at his best one of the top 10 corners in the league. At his worst, he's average, which will still help you. And they needed that. Because I think putting a lot of Mike Sandstro as a rookie is not good. I think he'd be a really good corner. And then Benjamin St. Justice, the mixed reviews, I like him. I think he's a good corner, but he's not locked down. You get more of that from Marshawn Lattimore. And then you also push some of these other guys to play more of a when needed matchup-wise kind of ordeals. Now, the trade I thought was big, and I think a guy that was mistreated, I think it was kind of forgot about. Khalil Herbert got traded to the Bengals, and I think, honestly, he could quickly become running RB1. He has had over 2,000 yards from scrimmage in like 3 years. He played with Justin Fields. Khalil Herbert, it was kind of because they wanted Roschon Johnson to play over him. Which I didn't think was fair. Because he was a darn good running back for a bit. I can get the name right. Yeah. He's former 6th rounder. His rookie year, he had 433 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he averaged, what? 4.2 yards per carry. Then, in 2022, he had 731 yards, 4 touchdowns, and he averaged 5.7. Last year, he came on towards the end of the season, 611 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4.6 yards per carry. This year, he's only gotten the ball 8 times for 16 yards and a touchdown, and is averaging 2 yards per carry. But I just think it's because they wanted Roschon Johnson. He's part of that tandem with Justin Fields, and he looked really good with Justin Fields. And I love this addition for the Bengals because Zach Moss just went down, and he's out indefinitely with a neck injury. Chase Brown's more of a speed back. Khalil Herbert's kind of running down your throat, and I love it. It looks good. Like CBS gives them a grade of a B. The Bears a C minus. Probably the worst grade out of it all is the Cowboys getting a D plus with Jonathan Mingo of the Packers for giving it Preston Smith. And then this another big one as well, and the last one of the day. The Lions added pass rushers to Darius Smith from the Browns. I wish they went out and got a better pass rusher, just because he hasn't done much lately. I mean, let's look it up here. Yeah, he had 10 sacks in 2022. Last year he had 5.5. This year he has 5. But still, not high on him. He's 32. He averages 8.5 sacks. So, I mean, it's something. It's better than nothing at all. I'm just not huge on it. I'm looking at their depth chart. He slots in well. Because Josh Pascal's hurt. They have DJ Reader. Mekhi Wingo, who is a big boy up in the middle. Alex Anzalone's getting after the quarterback a little bit. I mean, this is a defense that helps them out a lot. Again, they probably still could use another defensive end. It's a shame that he's out. They also have Emmanuel Mosley. Okay, so this defense could get a lot of help back. Okay, Derek Barnes is probably out for the whole year. I think it's Marcus Davenport too. But let's say they get Marcus Davenport back. Okay, there's defensive end. Then you have Emmanuel Mosley, another corner. John Kaminsky, who is a solid defensive end. That's a lot of help. Because then you don't have to play Amik Roberson. that much. You put Emmanuel Mosley there. Trying to see if I can find more about him. I can't. Let me look up. I think he played with the Jets for a bit. No, he's with San Francisco, and then he gets hurt last year. Well, he's a good corner. Brings a lot of experience. He's supposed to come back here soon. So, I mean, that upgrades their defense even more. Marcus Davenport. I think Marcus Davenport is rumored to come back here, and John Kaminsky. So that helps them out a lot. Derek Barnes, probably out the whole year. Aiden Hutchinson's out the whole year, which is sad. But again, that helps them kind of just build up some depth there, help up the front end. But the deadline as a whole, I mean, yesterday, Baron Browning got traded. He has 3.5 sacks. No, he does not. What is this? Third round pick in 2021. He has no sacks this year. He has 9.5 in his career. That trade is mind-boggling for Arizona. They gave up a 6th, you know. Just interesting. But yeah, now on to the games. We're just gonna hit a few of them. You know, Jets beat the Houston, and everyone's like, the Jets are back. Man, the Houston only really targeted Tank Dell. They need to get John Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson involved more. And I said this in the episode from Thursday. That wasn't heard, but they just need to get both of those guys involved. So I don't think the Jets are back. They don't have the offensive weapons Aaron Rodgers was talking about it today, the issues they had on the offensive line. Dallas is in shambles. They lost Dak for the extended period. And now CeeDee Lamb is hurt, which is even worse for them because now they're. And if I'm Dallas, I'm starting Trey Lance. I mean, you have nothing to lose here at that point. But you lose CeeDee Lamb, so you bring in Jonathan Mingo. So then you have Jalen Brooks, Jalen Tolbert, Jonathan Mingo, Kevontae Turpin. This is not a good looking squad. Tyler Gutton really hasn't looked that good at left tackle. Cooper Beebe has looked great at center. Zach Martin's not the same. Terrence Steele, not the same. Tyler Smith looks solid. But man, I mean, losing Dak is huge. And I said this in the offseason, and everyone's now coming around to it. Dak got overpaid. It was a heist that he held. He's not worth that money. He can't win you the big game. Everyone's saying that now. And they should fire Mike McCarthy. I don't even think you pay Michael Parsons at all. And looking at this on the IR, nobody that I'm looking here. I mean, Demarcus Robinson will be good back. Sam Williams, Marshawn Kneeland. They just got rid of Jordan Phillips. It's Brandon Cooks, but who knows? Brandon Schottenheimer and Mike McCarthy all need to get fired. I think Mike McCarthy is going to be one of the next few. So, Dennis Allen just got fired. And it's the crazy thing that this is 10 years after he got fired from the Raiders when Derek Carr was his quarterback then. But I think the next word is the Bears and Matt Eberflus. And we're going to talk about that real quick. Man, you lose 29-9 to Arizona. DJ Moore's walking off the field. Who is their OC? Who is the Bears' OC? Because I know it's someone that is terrible. Shane Waldron. They want that guy gone. I just don't think this is a team that it's like they don't need to mix it up off like as really offensively as a team. This is a team that needs an OC, one that knows what he's doing, and a head coach that knows what he's doing, because you have a good offensive line, Darnell Wright and Braxton Jones, who's hurt right now, and then Tevin Jenkins. And then offensively, you have DJ Moore, Roman Duzier, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Carter. I mean, that's a solid squad. And then running back wise, you have DeAndre Swift and Rashawn Johnson. And then you have Montez Sweat, who's hurt right now. The defense looks a little dinged up. It just doesn't. They're what? 4-5? 4-4, 0-4 away. They can't play away at all. Caleb Williams still doesn't look amazing. But Romeo Duze is starting to come along. I mean, this is a solid wide receiving core. You got to get DJ Moore more involved. If you want to win games, DJ Moore's got to be your number one receiver, and then go Duze and Keenan Allen, and they're simply just not doing that. And I mean, they didn't even. It's just because Arizona ran all over them. And they were like all kinds of guys. Trey Benson ran for a touchdown. Amari Dermercado. James Conner ran for 100 yards. Kyler Murray didn't even run the ball at all. And then Zaven Collins got 2 sacks finally. But I just think Matt Eberflus is the next to go. And then I think he goes potentially Mike McCarthy. I don't know who goes after that. I'm worried that Antonio Pierce is next. That's going to be up there. But looking at it, the head coach of the Browns, Doug Peterson has to go. I think it's Doug Peterson's time. He had one good year and he hasn't been the same since. And they've gotten worse. And I was watching some people talk about it. Trevor Lawrence doesn't look like he's the same guy anymore. Like it's a lack of confidence, like worse footwork. He can't place the ball where he wants it to place it. It's just, I mean, it's wild to see this guy that was a dog now just get completely 180. I think he's next to go. Dayball's going to have to go as well. I mean, if you're going to look at coaches that need to be fired here. So we've had 2. Then Eberflus, Dayball, McCarthy, Doug Peterson, Browns OC. Oh no, we'll just say Doug Peterson. 6 guys. And you're also looking at potentially the Colts and the Bengals. Miami Dolphins wouldn't shock me. All those guys clear house. And the Raiders. It's just bad. I mean, the Bears are a joke. There's nothing where you watch them and you're like, man, they look good. It's just like, ugh. Like, yikes. Washington beat New York. And, man, again, Chicago's punching the air right now because they missed out on Jaden Daniels. And Carmine said this the other day at work. He said, you were right. And I was like, I'm right about a lot of things in football. Which one? He said, Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is a better quarterback. And I said, I know. Because he can use his legs. He's got the poise to play in the pocket and do what is needed. Caleb Williams, there's a lot of questions about his character. And, again, he's like Josh Allen-like, but I think we're seeing his floor where he's not making those great plays. And then you add a terrible OC in Shane Waldron, who is not putting them in good spots. And it's just, it's ridiculous. I think if they get a better OC, and there's a guy talking about it when Mitchell Trubisky was there, they fired the head coach after his first year, so you had a second head coach and a second OC. Justin Fields gets there, they fire the head coach after his first year, and he gets a second head coach and second OC. And now Caleb Williams is next. The difference is Caleb Williams has a lot more potential, and he has flashed it at times. It's just, I mean, the routes that are ran are so archaic. The scheme is archaic. You've got to have someone in that can properly utilize. I mean, this is a receiving core that is studded, and then you have a good running back who's a great pass catcher out of the backfield, and you have Cole Kmet as your tight end, and you're just not utilizing anybody. He's regularly throwing for 200, like mid 200, low 200s. He hurt his ankle, but he's averaging, what? How many yards a game? And he's got 9 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. He's got a 61% completion percentage. Been sacked 29 times. That doesn't help either. It's just, I mean, you look at this and you're like, there's more they can do. Again, I wasn't high on Caleb Williams coming into the draft. And I think Jaden Daniels was by far the better quarterback. Yeah, he's averaging 208 yards per game. And I believe that Jaden Daniels was by far the best quarterback. But as well, I didn't think it was going to be this bad. DJ Moore has 374 yards. Romeo Oduze has passed him. And DJ Moore's being used in the short game. He's averaging 10 yards per catch. Oduze is averaging 15. Cole Kmet 11. Keenan Allen's averaging 9.4. It's just bad, dude. I mean, they've already cut Velus Jones. You trade Khalil Herbert. I mean, Khalil Herbert is way better than Rashawn Johnson. And for whatever reason, they're like, yeah, no. We want to have him ahead. Let's look at the Commanders. Jaden Daniels is not as good, 216 yards per game, but he's got 9 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, 17 sacks, and he's also ran for 458 with 4 more touchdowns. So again, he can do a lot more, and I think that's the situation with a lot less. Again, Terry McLaurin, Zach Ertz, Noah Brown, Austin Eckler, Olamide Zaccheaus, and Dyami Brown are those top receivers. And it's really just him and Terry McLaurin, 2-man gaming it. So, like, a guy like Cliff King, you give a guy like Daniels, a guy like Cliff Kingsbury, who's a great offensive mind, and then you give a guy like Caleb Williams, who, I mean, arguably does have a better upside, but I don't think he can reach that upside because of his character issues, and just because of, I don't think he has it in. There's a lot of issues he's seen his last year there where he was like, dude, him wanting to cry after losing when he played bad. Like, no, don't cry. Look at the tape. Like, look what you did wrong. Stop whining about it and look at it. It just looked like he does not have the mentality. I think if you give him a better quarterback or a better OC, then he's a better quarterback. But again, you've got to get there, and they ought to fire all of them. Because, I mean, it's really down to the coaching staff. And then if Caleb Williams sucks, then you put on Caleb Williams. But Minnesota and Indiana, and everyone is saying that the Joe Flacco thing has backfired. And I think what everyone forgets is Minnesota's DC is Brian Flores, and he is one of the best top 3 defensive minds in football right now. And they lost 2 games, right? And everyone's like, oh, this is good old Minnesota. Yes, they lost 2 games. It's to Detroit by 2 points and LA by 10. And Matthew Stafford's a Hall of Famer, and I think that's the game where they got Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp both back. Okay, and then Detroit is Detroit. I mean, they're the best team in football right now. And they only... So, and Indiana only lost 21-13. So, to me, I know Joe Flacco played a bad game, but, I mean, they were suffocating. I mean, they held Houston to 7 points. They held New York to 6, San Fran to 17. Like, it's ridiculous to me that we looked at it and be like, oh, they lost to the Vikings. Yeah, okay, but can we rewind to the first 5 weeks of the season where we were like, oh, my gosh, this Vikings defense is terrifying? Like, do we forget that this Vikings defense, Brian Flores is one of the better minds? I mean, pass rush-wise, you know, Van Ginkel's got 5 sacks. Jonathan Greenard's got 7. Pat Jones got 5. Do we just forget that that's a thing? And then this defense, I mean, how many interceptions do they have? 13. Byron Murphy's got 3. Van Ginkel's got 2 on top of his 5 sacks. Cameron Bynum's got 2. Gruger Hill's got 2. Then you have Stephon Gilmore, Harrison Smith, Shaquille Griffin. It's kind of ridiculous. I think that Joe Flacco's a better quarterback. You've got to let Anthony Richardson sit for a little bit. It's just ridiculous that you're like, oh, no, they need to switch. It all backfired. No, Minnesota's just got a really good defense. It would have been a lot uglier if Anthony Richardson played that game. Then on to the last thing we'll cover in today's episode. New Orleans and Carolina. And it's great to see Bryce Young win. But hey, Dennis Allen got canned. I think we all knew Dennis Allen was a bad head coach. Should have been canned. And then Michael Thomas just going after Derek Carr mid-game on Twitter. Michael Thomas had some personality issues. And then just kind of pouted about the way he left and kind of blamed Derek Carr on it. And then he just flamed him, acting like a child. When this guy could not stay healthy and did not do the proper rehab to be healthy, it was just bad. And it was ridiculous. And this Saints team, they're in cap hell. They've got to kick the can. They've been kicking the can down the road. For them to rebuild, they've got to cut, I think, a third of their roster. And to really make it, to fix the issues cap-wise, it's going to take like 3 years. Because you can't cut everyone right away because the cap hits. And this is another team that looked good and then got hurt. Rashid Shaheed's hurt. Chris Olave, man, it's sad to see what's going on with him with the hits. And it's really not Derek Carr's fault. It's an aggressive game. And you can't just take him out like that. You can't blame Derek Carr on those hits. I mean, those are the throws where he's the primary route and Derek Carr throws it to him and the DB just makes a big hit on him. And I wouldn't be shocked if Chris Olave was to retire. Their number 2 receiver is Alvin Kamara. They don't have a good number 3. Rashid Shaheed's hurt now. So, again, the lack of a number 3 receiver is glaring. It just doesn't look good. And then, yes, they just signed MVS, but it's a little too late. I mean, they're 2-7 now. There's no coming back unless they go like 7-1. But the chances of that is massive. I think they need to clear out the whole coaching staff. Dennis Allen didn't need to be there from the first place. The brother has, I think it was like an 8-28 winning record before he got hired, and then you just add on how bad they've been since he got hired. Just didn't look good. But that's all of today's episode. Again, Thursdays will be longer because we'll have basketball, and then we'll have the rest of football. Looking forward. Looking a little bit backward, looking a little bit back, but mainly looking forward. Some of the storylines and last week's Dudes of the Week. That's all for today's episode. Bye.